All right, everyone, we are here. You know the routine. We're going to start doing some reviews, and then we're going to get into an audio chapter. I'm excited to see what you guys had to say about this last chapter.
All right, Atomical. It's going too well. Something is going to hit the fan. Reviews are going to be very short from now on as I am working, but I hope that you know that I really do appreciate every single chapter you pump out for us. The effort required isn't underestimated, and I think each is wonderful. Bye-bye.
Aw, thank you.
Well,
Good luck on your work.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for your review.
Thank you.
Joe Clone, man.
Just real quick, I love how, like, I've more or less got them trained to the point where, like, anytime something's going too well, they're just like, all right, what's happening? What are you about to do to us?
Joe Clone, man, this was a great chapter. Weiss and Bakugo having Gimli Legolas competition was absolutely gut-cracking. I laughed harder than I should have. That new move Deku and Weiss invented sounded amazing. Just imagining how that looked visually was so stunning. You should draw it. Draw Northern Lights.
Ooh, that would be... Okay, so here's the thing about that. I can do some really good, like, close-up stuff, but distance shots I'm still kind of working on. And honestly, the way that I imagine that in my head, there'd be, like, a lot more... Like, it would be almost like I was designing a background. And I'm not very good at that yet. So I'm like... I like, if I drew it, I don't think it would come out the way that I'm picturing in my head.
See, and if you can do it, then it's like I would offer to do it, but literally every time you ask me to draw something, it's not the way you would pictured it, and then you get all offended, and then I get all offended, and then we're both stressed out. So sorry.
Yeah. I wouldn't hold your breath on that one. I'm sorry, man. I do have some new artwork coming up for this.
Nice. All right. Yeah, sorry, Joe Clone. I would absolutely do it, but he'll be all offended because I'm sure I will interpret it wrong.
I'm sorry.
All right. Now, back to the meat of the chapter. Kurai is back for goodsies now because of the double quirk caveat one for all has. Honestly, I forgot that was a thing until it was mentioned again. Good moments from all three kids here talking amongst themselves and in the conversation with Nezu. How Kai will exist as a hero going forward post-mortem plus resurrection is something that I'm very curious about. You kind of touch on it in the preview with the question of what he's going to do with his hair. Hopefully we get to find that out then.
Yeah, we'll get a little bit more. We'll get a little bit more. Yeah, this next chapter is going to be a little bit of figuring out where Kurai's headspace is at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely going to be... It's going to be a new dynamic going forward in terms of how he handles some stuff. Like, some stuff will be the same because, is the same person, but so much has happened that it won't be exactly the same. There will be some differences going forward.
Gotta cut it there because life's been super busy and I've had to sporadically write this over multiple days.
Oh, man.
I feel you, buddy. I appreciate it. Glad the fanfiction app saves reviews before I post them. See you next time, Ataris.
All right. Well, thanks for your review, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah. Sporadic or not, I always appreciate what you guys have to say.
I was just telling the people in the Discord today, sorry, I've been MIA. Life is crazy. So it's not just you guys. It's me too. All right. Silly Kira. Hey, this chapter was a great blend of fluff and action. So let's get into it.
Yay.
The beginning scene could be considered something of an info dump, but I'm honestly so happy to see these characters being happy together again after so long that I really didn't mind. Akurui, as usual, steals the show with his commentary concerning the other's behavior, as well as his analysis of the situation concerning one for all present. Something I noticed about him lately, or maybe he's always done this and I just wasn't paying attention, is that whenever he's talking to Kurai about stuff concerning heroics, he somewhat drops the superiority complex. As in, he knows he's smarter than everyone else, but because of his brother's firsthand experience on being a hero and all of the factors involved in that, he speaks to Kurai as an equal. I need to keep a closer eye out to see if he does this with anyone else, but it was something that stood out to me this time in particular.
Honestly, if he does do that, it's not something that I've done deliberately. So, like, I don't know, maybe it's something like it's not something I've gone out of my way to do. Like, it makes sense that they're saying this. Like, now I think about it.
I think it also owes to the fact that he's growing up a little bit.
Yeah, but like, I'm not. Yeah, it's interesting point. I'm gonna have to go back and check that out because honestly, I can say I didn't do that on purpose.
Okay.
All right.
The moment where the two brothers welcome one another back was truly heartwarming and made me smile so damn big.
Yeah, I love that little moment where it's just where it's like it's good to have you back. It's good to have you have dumbass get back smart ass. Just them roasting each other while they're sharing this moment.
Side note, nice workaround for Aerie having two quirks that won't kill her super fast. Though that does raise the question about the possibility of her not aging due to continued rewinds so that she doesn't start to waste away like the fourth user did. Can Aerie control her quirks so that her body doesn't get damaged like his, but will continue to age like normal? This seems very complicated. I'm going to leave this sorting of such details to you.
Aerie will definitely age slower because she has to continually rewind her body to avoid damage. But I think like she'll continue to get older. It's just going to be a lot slower. Is basically how that's going to end up working.
Okay. The scenes with Endeavor's agency made me laugh more than they should have, largely on two accounts. First, I'm sure I was not the only one who noticed the Legolas Gimli vibes going on Lawrence between Bakugo and Weiss, which somehow fits their dynamic way too perfectly.
Honestly, like, yeah, I definitely took Legolas Gimli inspiration from. I'm surprised that two different people say the same thing, but yeah, there was definitely some of that going on. Like, I was trying to figure out like some good back and forth between two friends who are also super competitive, and Legolas and Gimli just came to mind very easily. So I was like, yeah, I was like, let's make a numbers game out of it.
Both are super competitive, so it stands to reason they would turn their time together on a job into some sort of contest.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Also, just the group of understanding and accepting that they need to wait for Deku to run out of ideas before he'll stop talking. Even Bakugo is a small but meaningful way to show how this unit in particular has bonded with one another during their time at Endeavor's agency.
Yeah, like I honestly debated a little bit about whether or not to cover more time at Endeavor's agency, but it kind of felt like if I did that, it would start taking away from what was going on with Kurai and all of them. Yeah. So, like little things like this, I'm trying to show that yes, there's a rapport that's built between the four of them at this point. Imagine what shenanigans you will. I didn't see a need to go too hard into details on how that would have happened.
Northern Lights. Excellent choice in the name for a combined ultimate move from Deku and Weiss. I do hope we get to see it in action again because that display was way too cool to be used as a one-off.
Yeah, I believe we're going to see it again.
I also liked that it was a pair that was able to pull. It was that pair that was able to pull it off. The two people in the group at Endeavor's agency that honestly seemed the least likely to be able to achieve such a high level of synchronicity, and yet pulled it off with aplomb. I don't know that word.
You don't know that word? My understanding is that it's like not pulling it off with like you could say with flair instead.
Okay.
But like with excellence, I suppose would be with like a showy excellence almost.
That doesn't happen for me very often anymore. Nice,
That's
dude. Thank you.
Nice. Yeah,
all right, I learned a new word today.
What was I gonna say? I'll take a moment to say that like, yeah, you would think these two would have a hard time figuring out how to work together, but you got to remember that Weiss takes orders from Ruby. She's had to learn how to do that, and Deku and her don't have the same dynamic, but Deku kind of has that same Deku like kind of on like if y'all remember, him and Ruby vibe super hard. Yeah. They're good friends, even if we don't see it on camera a whole lot. So her being able to get along with Deku kind of factors in her being able to get along with Deku kind of factors in her relationship with Ruby.
That makes sense. Nice. I think I remember something about Kurai saying that they could have... Oh, sorry. Yeah. I think I remember something about Kurai saying that they could all do with taking a page from the American Heroes books and try to focus on working together to greater effect, as opposed to standing entirely on their own for the sake of competition. Makes me wonder if we're going to see any other combined ultimates from this new grouping.
Yes, there's... Okay, yeah. There's a couple of ultimates that are going to come out from this group in particular that I'm very excited about.
Nice. Nezu versus Akurui was one-sided and hilarious, though our sassy boy is probably gonna get it when he gets back to UA. I'm sure he'll figure something out. I'm honestly starting to wonder if his plot armor is not equal to or stronger than Kurai's due to his popularity with the readers.
His plot armor has nothing to do with the popularity with the, like, I'm glad you guys like him so much, but his plot armor, whatever you want to call it, no, it's not influenced by you guys liking him. Like, again, don't mistake, like, I'm not brushing you guys off. I'm really glad that you like this character, but every character has a role to play in the story, and their plot armor carries them that far.
I'm not going to respond to that one. I will give too much away. Mina and Kurai getting back to normal. Woot woot. It hasn't exactly been anxiety inducing the way they've been for some time, but it is certainly another breath of fresh air for the story to be able to have such an important dynamic return to its rightful setting.
Yeah. I think, like, I don't know, you were saying something about my artwork, like how I'm finally getting into a groove with drawing Kurai, like where it's starting to be a lot more consistent. And I feel like the same can kind of be applied to this. It's like I've been used to writing them a certain way for a while, and I've been forced to divert from that for a while, which I think has been good for me in a literary practice sense, and is also good for the story. But I think, you know, being able to get back into familiar territory will allow me to move forward a little more comfortably.
Okay. So we're getting Gran Torino in the World Heroes mission arc. I honestly am not sure what you plan to do with that, but I'm sure it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun.
Is Eri getting ready to do a rewind on Tensei / Original Ingenium? Please let this be the case. That man did not deserve what happened to him, and if she can bring him back to the fight to fight the good fight, I'm so excited.
All right, I'm glad you're excited, but we're going to move on to the next point.
Lastly, to your author's note, allow me to say in return that it is my pleasure to invest what little I can into your masterpiece. Oh, that's so kind. The fact that you have been producing such quality content for so long speaks not only to your skill and tenacity, but also to your genuine interest in reaching us, the readers. Thank you for creating such an awesome alternate canon that I have to love just as much as the original. Whoa, thank you, if not more. This story, and more so the effort that you put into it, is truly plus ultra. Happy writing until the next one.
Thank you.
Whoa, thank you. That's really kind. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the authors know that.
I mean, I agree with you, but I'm a little biased because I'm his wife. So it's nice. It's nice hearing that from other people.
I'm glad that my wife feels that way about my work. Unfortunately, there's a lot of guys out there who can't say the same. But I put it in the author's note because I'm like, wow, I'm like we're hitting up like 95 chapters coming up here soon. It's like I should say something to like people who have stuck around for this long.
Yeah, it's really cool. I was nervous when he decided to pace out the chapters as far as he has, which I think the quality is better because he's paced himself at this rate, because if he just kind of sped through them, it wouldn't be as high quality.
Burnout would happen so fast.
Yeah. And
like,
so
I don't think I would have even hit the second movie arc before I burnt out.
So I think I was nervous that he was making it such a slow burn, but I think that the quality is a lot better because you chose to do that, because you've given yourself time. And
I need breathing room.
Yeah, and you also have set yourself deadlines too, which is good. So it's pretty cool to me. Anyway,
well, thank you guys for your reviews. We'll go ahead and let you guys get on to this next chapter. Fair warning, not a lot of action happening in this one, but I think it's gonna be a fun one. So we'll catch you guys in a little bit.
I've been wandering in my mind lately. I've been looking for a place to rest my head, for the road that lies ahead. Always fighting for the ones beside me. You could try it, but her heart's so far from dead. You will believe it. I look at fear in the eye, yes, we met before. Stirring every lie, someone's at the door. You keep walking the line, I stuck to the floor. Nothing wrong in my mind, I've always wanted more. I've been walking on coals high for my whole life, gotten better keep holding on, building the life that I've been dreaming. Holding on, carrying my heart to the end. And then I'll see who was wrong. Will I reach the heights I'm scaling? I'll rise above, so in the fire within. So in the fire within.
Worth the wait. Let's see. Nomu number 2? Nope, number 1. There's so many I can't keep track. Mina groaned as she leaned against the wall of the hot spring, deciding to give up on further inspecting her boyfriend's back. Having noticed that the scars he'd accumulated were colored fairly differently under the current conditions, she had begun to try and count them, a process that had been derailed when she also tried to remember which event had made each mark appear, much to Kurai's amusement. The boy chuckled as he turned around to face her and stood against the opposite wall of the steamy, shallow pool before saying, "To be fair, I probably would have forgotten a fair number of them by now if I hadn't recorded them in my journal." His face twisted slightly in thought as he muttered, "Truthfully, it's pretty concerning that I have this many scars to begin with, especially given that I haven't even gone pro yet." It was their second day in the town where they had chosen to remain hidden until it was time to meet up with Gran Torino and Eri, and Mina had expressed a desire to try the local hot springs. Since it wasn't a particularly active tourist season at the moment, booking a session had been relatively easy, and in the end, Kurai wasn't even surprised to find she had gotten them a mixed bath for an hour. Supposedly, this hot spring was supposed to be good for deep muscle fatigue, which he supposed he could use after his rather extraneous efforts in Kanto and subsequent meditation in a cold cave the previous day. He had fully been expecting his girlfriend to make a pass at him the moment they were alone, but to his surprise, she had seemed content with simply enjoying the hot springs in his company without acting on any ulterior motives. At first, he wondered if she wasn't going to pounce the second he let his guard down, but after a little while, he realized she really just wanted some time to chill with him. "Maybe Eri can rewind your skin or something," the pink girl suggested in response to his comments concerning the marks on his body. A sly smile creased her face as she added, "But I suppose there's something to be said for the look of a brave man who knows how to handle a challenge." Kurai rolled his eyes before saying, "I think this many scars only goes to show that I don't know when to get out of the way, which doesn't make me brave, just makes me stupid." He was about to add more when he was hit in the face with a small wave of hot, stinging herbal water. "Hey!" he complained as he scrubbed at his eyes. "You're not stupid," Mina said without any traces of joking in her voice. "Hard-headed and a trouble magnet, sure, but don't ever call yourself something you're not." Kurai finished scrubbing his eyes before he nodded at her and said, "All right, point taken. Sorry." "Come on, man, you know how I feel about people talking bad about you." She smirked as she poked his leg with her foot. "That goes for any and all talkers." "I get it, and if you're trying to tickle me, you're hitting the wrong leg." He grinned back. "My scar tissue's the sensitive part. I wasn't very ticklish at the beginning of the school year, remember?" "Oh, yeah." She pouted as she slid her leg away from his. A thought seemed to occur to her then because she asked, "Are they starting to hurt yet?" They're a little more sensitive to the heat than when they first healed, and as we've discovered, tactile contact makes the skin crawl fairly easily." He shrugged. "It's not a constant pain, and since Recovery Girl's quirk healed my body the best that it's going to be each time, I think that means the nerve endings under the skin have long since finished growing back. Maybe as I get older there will start to be some problems, but I doubt it's anything that I can't handle. If anything, my bones are feeling it more than my skin right now." She gave him a concerned look before asking, "Is it bad?" It's a good kind of pain," he admitted with a dry grin. "It's adding to the ache now, but I know this is good for me, so I can tough it out. I've definitely had worse and survived." "Don't go trying to hide your pain again if it does get to be too much," she warned him. "We don't need a repeat of what happened after we all moved into the dorms." "You don't gotta tell me," Kurai said with a small shudder as he looked at his right bicep, which still bore a number of scars he had put there himself while suffering from his phantom pains. Even though Eri had regenerated the limb for him, there were a few marks that had been scoured into his flesh that ran higher up than the restored part of his body, so they had been left as they were. The memory alone of the agony that his mind had subjected him to was enough to make him feel queasy, but it also helped reinforce a notion of his. Looking away from the marks, he then added, "Like I said, I've had to deal with pain on that level, so I doubt any resulting scar sensitivity is going to be too tough for me to handle if the time comes." "Oh, my dear," Mina sighed as she shook her head slowly. "With all that gray hair and battle scars, people in my extended family are going to think I'm marrying some old hero who's already on death's door." Kurai burst out laughing at that, and he instinctively started to curl over as he held his sore abdomen, which just resulted in him getting a face full of water that he had to spit out. This got Mina laughing just as hard, since the only way to describe his currently flustered appearance was absolutely ridiculous. By the time he had rid himself of the excess moisture, he made a face of disgust and said, "Ugh! Herbal water. Smells nice, feels good. Ugh, tastes awful." Aw, Mina continued to giggle. "Well, our time's just about up anyway. Let's go eat something to get that aftertaste out of your mouth." Seriously, that tastes like feet," Kurai complained as they moved to exit the hot spring. From the springs, Kurai followed Mina to a restaurant she had apparently looked up earlier in the day. As they got near to it, he thought that he may have passed by it a few times during his last visit to the town, but he couldn't be completely sure. As they walked by several people who smiled and gave them friendly greetings in passing as they went about their separate days, which he realized was becoming something of a novel experience for him. Ever since he had won the sports festival and appeared on television alongside Gang Orca, Kurai had begun to receive looks of acclaim from the occasional passerby. When he bested the Shadow Nomu in Fukuoka, he had been living on the UA campus, so he only had a limited knowledge of the fact that he would no longer be able to go in public without more than one person recognizing him as the Guardian hero, though he had begun to get more of an idea of that reality on Nabu Island. Doubtless that when he officially made his return from the dead and his new appearance was revealed to the public, his popularity would only increase once again. So to be able to walk around under the guise of a normal boy for a night on the town with his girlfriend was something he was determined to enjoy for the limited time that he had available to him. Once they were seated inside the aquatic-themed establishment, Kurai decided to bring up a topic that he had been about to address at the bathhouse before he had been interrupted by their respective laughing fits. "Had any time to think about what I should do with my hair when we get back?" he inquired after the waiter had left them with their orders in hand. Mina, not having expected the question, took a moment to peer more carefully at his head and the state of the mop that adorned it. Normally he kept it relatively short, but his last haircut had been weeks before their mission to Nabu Island, making it essentially 3 months since he had asked for Asui to give it a trim. Her having younger siblings meant that she was well versed in caring for different hairstyles, and she had been happy to lend her cosmetic skills to her classmates who requested it. His silvery strands had grown to the point that they brushed the nape of his neck and hung over his eyes if he did not comb them to the side. The last time he'd worn this hair this long was when they had been attacked over at the summer camp. After a moment, she lowered her gaze to meet his eyes before saying, "You don't like this look?" He shrugged before admitting, "I suppose I don't feel too strongly about it, which is why I asked your opinion. It's really the only one that matters." As Mina's cheeks heated up, he then made a thoughtful face as he added, "Although, come to think of it, I kind of look like the first with my hair like this." "Wait, for real?" she asked, slightly startled by this revelation. Since they were in public, she knew that him saying first meant that he was referring to the original wielder of One for All. "What did he look like?" "Like I said, kind of similar to me." Kurai shrugged again, although his hair was actually longer and he had green eyes, sort of like Izuku's. Also, he was usually fairly sick and he looked it. "So, a skinny love child of yours and Izuku." She grinned, causing him to hang his head in exasperation. "Very funny," he grumbled. "Seriously, though, what do you think I should do with this mess?" So saying, he reached up and pinched some of the strands that had fallen over his brow when he had lowered it. "I mean, I think you look pretty cute no matter what you're doing, so maybe I'm not the best person to ask," she admitted. "I guess it all really depends on why you would want to change it up." Kurai grew quiet for a moment before he looked straight at her again and said, "After I had to switch to a replacement arm for a while, I know it made you really uncomfortable to look at. I wanted to avoid a repeat of that discomfort on your end, so I honestly just want to know what would be your preferred look." In that moment, Mina reflected that she should stop being surprised that Kurai often looked for ways to be more accommodating to her needs and even wants, but it still caught her off guard regardless. How does he keep being so thoughtful? She wondered as she felt her cheeks coloring again. It took her a moment before she was able to put her thoughts together well enough to form a cohesive message. When she did, she said, "Honestly, I think I should just be more appreciative of you as you are." "What do you mean by that?" "Well, you look the way you do now because of everything that you've gone through for us," she replied with a shrug of her own. "I think if I told you to change that, it'd be kind of like me saying that those events don't matter, when they're a large part of what makes you who you are now. I don't find you any less attractive for all these changes, and if I did, that'd be pretty shallow of me, wouldn't it?" Now as Kurai's eye turned to redden slightly as he scratched at the scars on the left side of his face while he said, "Thanks for saying that, but you really don't have a preference about any of this." "Well, the long hair is a very comic book hero look, so I can't say I dislike it," she giggled. "You're cooler than any manga pro tag anyway, so if you like it, I'd say you've earned the right to wear it like that. But if I really had to pick, I'd say that I like your hair shorter." "Huh? And why's that?" "Your hair was short when we met," Mina reminded him with a coy grin. "Plus it lets me see your big, beautiful eyes." Kurai had gone to take a sip of his drink, so he nearly did a spit take when she paid him that particular compliment. His eyes bugged out spectacularly, and he nearly failed to keep the liquid in his mouth, but through supreme will of effort, he managed to down it before gasping out, "That's a new one!" "Ha! I knew I could still catch you off guard," she laughed. "Jeez, here I was thinking of how I'd present myself at our wedding when we get around to it." Kurai coughed as he wiped his mouth off with a napkin. He then grinned broadly as Mina froze in place, followed by the words, "Oh, sorry, did you forget I learned how to play this game too?" "What? You jerk!" she sputtered, though the accusation was ruined by another round of giggles. "Using the topic of our wedding is a low blow." "Hey, don't hate the player, hate the game," Kurai smirked. "Still, while we're on that particular subject, I gotta admit I'm curious. What kind of wedding did you dream about having? I'm guessing you've had something of an idea since you were a little girl." "What kind of assumption is that?" Just one based on the fact that you like shoujo movies a little too much," he answered. "Also, I know you better than anyone. You can't seriously expect me to believe that you don't have doodles as a little girl about what kind of guy you wanted to marry, what your wedding would look like when you did." Mina made a slight pouting face, no doubt irritated at the fact that she had been seen through so easily, but Kurai simply waited until she mumbled, "You know that little spiral notebook I keep next to the vinyl rack in my room?" "I know the spot, but I can't say that I remember that item in particular," he admitted, though he retained his knowing smile. "Is that what that is?" "Yes," she nodded, her cheeks coloring further. "I had one when I was 6, but I melted it with my cork when my brothers tried to go looking through it. I got this new one after our talk about getting married following our class's fight against you." "Huh?" Kurai replied with a raised eyebrow and a wider smile. "Am I allowed to see what's inside it?" "Definitely not," she said with a quick shake of her head. "What? Why not?" "Reasons." "There's a sketch of what you want your dress to look like in there, isn't it?" "Yes." "Neat," he chuckled. "All right, I won't ask to see it again. I still like to think about what we're going to do for that event, though." "It depends on how many people we'll be inviting," she replied as the waiter returned with our food. After thanking him, she went on to tell Kurai, "I've got a few extended relatives that I need to invite. Grandparents, an aunt and her family on my mom's side, a couple of my dad's siblings. It shouldn't be any more than 20 or 30 people, depending on if their kids come." "Well, it's just Akadori, Shuken, and Aunt Sakura for me," Kurai shrugged. "Dad and Uncle Shiro were the only kids from their parents, and both sets of my grandparents are dead. I'm going to submit an appeal for my mom to get out on a temporary parole for the wedding, but I kind of doubt it's going to work. Since she's an only child from her family, I don't have any other extended relatives either." "Oh, yeah," Mina said, her mood growing a little more somber. She put her hand on Kurai's, which had grown still. "I'm sorry, sweetie." "Don't be," he replied as he shook himself and squeezed her hand gently for a second. "I'm happy that I'll be able to have any family on my side at all. I'm even happier that we'll get to grow on our family together. Besides, a smaller wedding sounds like it'd be a lot less stressful than a big one, especially if we're trying to hide out from the paparazzi. Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them to try and track our wedding down once we make it official," she said with a slow shake of her head as Kurai bit into his crab cake. "You're hardly going to be able to walk the streets without a crowd of admirers when you make your comeback." "Funny, I was just having the same thought earlier," he admitted once he was able to speak again. Most people would have interpreted this comment as arrogance, but Mina knew that he was honestly just worried at the prospect. Well, we'll figure something out to do about them when the time comes. I'm still trying to figure out how many people we're going to invite outside of our family." "Well, we got to have our classmates come for starters, so there's 22 people on their own. We should probably invite some of the teachers, too," she mumbled through a mouthful of pike. "You really think Bakugo is going to come?" Kurai chuckled. "He'll probably just tell us to piss off. Also, Team Ruby will more than likely be home by that time, so who's to say that they'll be able to make it? You really think Shani would miss a chance to show off how rich she is by bringing us whatever expensive gift she'll think of in person?" Mina replied with an arched eyebrow. "Ah, so the real reason for the invite comes out," Kurai chuckled. "I knew you didn't like her that much. You just wanted her to bring her wallet." He was laughing, so she knew he wasn't serious. Even so, his girlfriend felt the need to reply, "She's not that bad. We've all gotten a lot closer since the provisional exam. She's been nicer to Izuku since they joined the same agency." "I know," he assured her as he held up a hand in a gesture of concession. "Okay, we'll invite them when the time comes too." "Anyone outside of our class?" "Not sure," she admitted. "We are still talking 2 years down the line here. I know all of us in Class A are probably going to be BFFs, but I don't know about other people we know now, or people we're going to meet at some point." "Wait, I got it," Kurai said as he snapped his fingers in realization. "Togata and Amajiki. I can't forget them. I guess we can't exclude Hato from that invite." "Little Airy," Mina reminded him. "If we did it now, I'd want to have her be the flower girl, but by the time we can get this thing going, she'll be a little too old." Good point," Kurai nodded. After a moment of quiet chewing on his food, he then said, "I gotta have the Idas for sure. It's kind of a given with Tenya, but I also want to invite his parents and Tensei, him especially." "Why him in particular?" she asked curiously. She knew that they were close, and that Kurai looked up to the older Ida as a role model, but it seemed like there was something more to it than just inviting a family friend to the event. The boy scratched the back of his head before he said, I won't do it if you're not comfortable with it, but I was hoping to ask Tensei to fill the role of my father at the wedding. Mina blinked in surprise, but since she said nothing one way or the other, Kurai felt obligated to explain, I've been thinking a lot about who I looked up to, the way that a boy looks to a man for a role model other than his father, and I kept coming back to him. He's always had my back when I've needed him. He's one of the first people I always remember when I think of a good hero. He gave up literal pieces of his body so that I could have an arm again. He protected me and the others after the incident in the caves. Those are just the big things, but there's honestly 101 other reasons I could think of why I want him and no one else to stand in for my dad. Mina was once again made to sit in silence with her thoughts for a few moments while she mulled this over. In all honesty, she was a little disappointed in herself for not considering how much the lack of Kurai's family being present for their wedding was probably going to hurt him. That wasn't to say that their union would be a melancholy event, just that she wished she had thought of ways to make up for it before now. Note to self, start putting ideas for that in my journal when we get home, she thought with a flash of irritation. To try and conceal her anger at herself, she stirred and said, I'm sorry I didn't think about how that part of it all would affect you. I can't even imagine trying to have someone fill in for one of my parents at our wedding. Nor should you have to, Kurai said with a light smile on his face. At any rate, I'm glad that I have friends close enough to rely on as family. Speaking of close friends, Mina said as she laid down her eating implements. Any thoughts as to who you have in your party? Party? Kurai repeated. Are we talking a traditional Shinto wedding or one in a chapel? If I'm being honest, I wanted a Shinto-style ceremony when I was little, but now that it just seems like an extra load of work that doesn't seem worth it, Mina admitted with a sheepish grin. I know, you'd think I want to go all out with the whole shebang when I got married, but when you stop and think about it, the wedding is the party to celebrate us starting a family together. A chapel wedding and a reception seems a lot more easygoing when it comes to prep and the actual party. I just want everyone to have a good time, especially after I've gone all Brightzilla on them. Kurai raised an eyebrow at that while his lips quirked upward at the corners before he asked, I thought you wanted things to be chill for everyone involved? Yeah, well, I wanted the same thing for the school festival concert. Look how that turned out. She sighed as she placed her cheek on her hand. If I got that high-strung about a song and dance number, imagine how I'm going to be on the most important day of our lives. He had to admit she made an excellent point. In order to take away from the thought of the stress that day would probably cause her, he decided to say, back to your question about my party then. I do have my boys in mind. I pretty much made my decision once we started telling our friends, actually. You? Ochako for my maid of honor, Mina answered without missing a beat. Well, that might be a little awkward for Izuku when Akudori lines up with his girlfriend, but I'm sure we can make it work, Kurai mused. I figured you'd pick your brother for the role, Mina said approvingly. I know he'll be good for the job, provided we can keep him from arguing with whoever we get for a wedding coordinator. I've got a few tricks up on my sleeve to ensure his cooperation, her boyfriend said with a slightly sinister grin. I'll leave that to you then, she giggled. I was also going to have Yamamoto and Hagakure be the bridesmaids. Nice, Kurai nodded quickly. I know they'll both be a big help. I'll be asking Shuken and Ida when the time comes. Also good picks, but I thought you and Ida weren't besties for resties anymore, Mina asked with a teasing smile. True, but he is like another brother, Kurai admitted with another smile. He's got squatting rights over Izuku, and he really is a good friend, in spite of that hard head of his. Sweetie, be honest here, Mina said as she looked him dead in the eye. You just want to put him in a position where he can't get out of saying a lot of nice things about the both of us, because we both know that even though most people take the opportunity to make fun of their friends when they're given the floor like that, his sense of duty won't allow him to be anything but the picture-perfect groomsman. Kurai held her gaze steadily for several long moments before his straight face broke apart in a favor of a barely contained series of laughs. I knew it, Mina laughed along with him. She had meant to sound more accusatory, but the part of her that so enjoyed pranks was absolutely loving this idea. I think I may have become a bad influence on you, sweetie. That's okay, I love you for it. He chuckled before he surprised her by grabbing her hand and planting a kiss on it that landed with a somewhat loud smack. About a half hour later, they were strolling through the evening town at a leisurely pace, though Kurai knew that he was going to want to sleep again soon. As restful as the previous evening had been, his body was still in need of recovery from the events in Kanto. After Mina had been humming a tune that he recognized from one of her favorite pop albums for a minute, he nudged her with his elbow so that she would look up at him. Once she had, he asked, what should we do tomorrow? I don't know, you pick, she said with a cheery smile. We've got a full day off tomorrow too, so we've got plenty of time to do whatever you can think of. You're the spontaneity master, though, he protested. I'm no good at coming up with stuff on the spot, you know that. Yeah, but we did a bunch of stuff that I wanted to do today, she replied with a cute grin. After we wrap up at dessert place tonight, it's your turn. You want dessert? He inquired as he rubbed at his abdomen. I don't know my stomach can take much more. I'm not used to stuff that isn't just made for nutritional value anymore. I thought you said the hospital food was pretty decent. Well, it was, but I can't really be made to enjoy it. I mean, it's not made to be enjoyed by the palate as much as it is, keep us well-fed and healthy, he shrugged. I guess I didn't realize how much extra stuff goes into food that we don't actually need until now. Oh, but that defeats the whole purpose of getting dessert, Mina pouted. It was supposed to be more for you than me. What? Why? No reason? She tried to say, a little too late to hide the guilty look on her face as she turned away. Mina Ashido, what were you planning to do, the dessert and or me? He asked as he stopped walking, a mock frown on his face. Nothing, she protested as she thumped him on the chest, which failed to even make him flinch. When she saw that he wasn't budging until he got a satisfactory answer, she groaned and said, Fine. I wanted to give you a birthday cake because we couldn't celebrate together during New Year's. I even got Akuroi to buy us some fountain sparklers before he left so we could set him off at the beach just like a mini fireworks show afterward. Kurai just stared at her with wide eyes while she fidgeted in place as she went on to add, I don't have your present with me since it's back at the dorms, and I wasn't able to pull off the surprise party that me and some of the others were going to put on for you the week after winter break. You did such an amazing job with my birthday, and I wanted to try and do the same for you, but everything kind of fell apart, so now I just want to do something to celebrate with you. As her voice trailed off, Kurai moved forward and hugged her tightly against his body until she returned the embrace. I'm sorry that I robbed you of that chance, he told her in a soft voice, but I promise you'll have plenty more chances to pull off the best surprise party that I've ever seen. When she nodded wordlessly against him, he then asked, Would it make you feel better if we went and then set off some fireworks on the beach? Another nod got him smiling as he said, Let's go grab him then. Kurai wound up going to the room alone while Mina stayed in the lobby to look at some brochures. He quickly found the bag that she mentioned his brother had left for them, and upon inspecting its contents, was glad to see that they had everything they would need to light the pyrotechnics. I guess we'll use ocean water to put out the residual heat in the bag for trash, he decided as he went to pick up the sack. However, he stopped when he saw that there was a small box that had been hidden by the bag, topped by a note that looked to be in Akurui's handwriting. Setting the bag aside, Kurai picked up both of the items and quickly read the note that had been left. It went, I hope you're the one reading this, Kurai. Ashido, if you pick this up, put it back and pretend like you didn't see it. If you don't, I'll know. Now to my brother, I say it's about time you stop letting this thing sit in a drawer collecting dust. I know you're planning to use it on New Year's, but that's obviously a bust, and it's only a matter of time before she finds it on her own in your room. I better see this thing on its rightful place when you get back from beating the stuffing out of Humarise. P.S. The bog is rigged to electrocute anyone that isn't you, so don't worry about the safety of its contents. That little... Kurai tossed the note aside and opened the box, relieved to see the item in question was still present. If he had lost this thing, I'd have my future self kill him. Don't go dragging me into this, the 10th said from the back of their mind. Then don't go dragging me into nightmare caves just to have a chat. Snapping his box shut, he pocketed it and snatched at the bag so that he could go and meet with his girlfriend in the hotel lobby. In spite of his irritation, he couldn't help a smile from breaking out across his face as he thought, well, Akuroi did say he wanted to help plan it when the time came. Guess this is his way of contributing. You're still going to punch him the next time you see him, aren't you? The 9th vestige asked him. Duh. It wasn't long before the couple was on the beach, grinning in delight as they shivered against the cold air of the ocean while they watched the fire and lights dance with a multitude of colors on the sand in front of them. Happy birthday, Kurai, Mina said after he'd lit one that seemed like it was set to go for a while. Even if it's way late, I'm still glad to be able to celebrate with you. I'm glad that I get to celebrate it with you, he said as he felt his legs wobbling. He didn't know why he was getting so nervous. He already knew the pending outcome. Even so, his heart was pounding like a vicious jackhammer, threatening to burst out of his chest if he didn't take the plunge soon. Even as he drew in a breath to speak again, Mina turned to him with a tilted head before she asked, You okay? You're shivering like crazy. Not really shivering, he said with a wobbly grin as the latest firework began to die down. I won't lie, though. I'm glad we're almost out of fireworks because it is cold out here. Let's light them all up at once, she suggested. It'll make for the grand finale of our little show, and we can go back inside and get warmed up. Sounds good to me, he said as he moved to kneel in the sand, nearly toppling over sideways in the process. Dear ancestors, get it together, he told himself as he went to plant the 4 remaining fireworks in the sand and light their fuses. His hands were shaking more than his legs, so it took him a couple of tries to get them all lit successfully, and he barely got away in time for the first fountain to start spewing heat and light. In fact, he was so off balance that he wound up falling back on his hands and knees in front of Mina, who looked down at him with worry. Kurai, are you okay? She asked as she moved to help him up. Yeah, I'm good, he said with a small shake of his head as he declined to stand. Just needed to get something off my chest. As another one of the fireworks displays started to shoot up, he managed to balance himself so that he was on one knee in front of the paint girl while he reached into the pocket of the hoodie that he was wearing. Mina's dark eyes went so wide that Kurai worried they might pop out of her head as he held up the little black box he had been saving for this moment. "Mina Ashido," he said with what he hoped was a strong enough voice, "I love you so much. I want everyone who meets us to know how much I love you so. Will you do me the honor of wearing this ring and becoming my wife as soon as we're able?" So saying, he pried open the lid to show the ring that had been adored by a single diamond. "Oh my... Kurai, this is beautiful!" She gasped out as joyous tears slid down her eyes. "Of course I'll wear it. I want everyone to know that I love you too. I'll go straight to the marriage offices or whatever they're called right after our graduation ceremony if you want to." With a huge smile on his face, Kurai stood up and deftly slipped the ring onto her waiting finger before they kissed each other breathless, even as the fireworks behind them finally reached their crescendo. They remained like that until the sizzling and popping had died down, and Mina pulled back so that she could admire the ring she had been gifted with. "Seriously, this is a gorgeous ring. Kurai, how'd you get your hands on something like this?" she asked through a breathy laugh as she continued to keep one arm possessively around his waist. "It was my mother's," he answered as he pressed his brow against hers. "She wants you to have it. Seems like it's her way of welcoming you into the family. She also gave me her wedding band and my father's ring, so we can have that when we finally tie the knot." "Wow, that's..." Mina shook her head in wonder at the gift they had been given. "This is so sweet. Your mom is awesome." She could hardly believe what was happening right now. She had always imagined that this would be one of the greatest, most romantic moments of her life, but never did she think she would actually get to experience it on a beach in the light of a fireworks show. Calling the feelings rushing through her right then surreal wouldn't have done the emotions credit. "She did say that I have to bring you with me for my next visit," Kurai informed her, "so I'm sure you'll get your chance to thank her in person before too long." "For sure, whatever she wants," Mina said quickly. "I'll help her break out of prison for giving me this thing if she asks me to." "Mina! Dude, I'm not even kidding. Look at this thing. It's worth a prison break." "You know what else it is?" "What's that?" Kurai asked as he prepared himself for another round of laughter or kisses, possibly both. He did get kissed, but it was very brief, and it was more so that Mina could keep her face close to his as she whispered, "It was worth the wait. And I know the same is going to be said when we finally hit our wedding day." Now that is a sentiment I can get behind. It was a long time before they grew cold enough to want to move away from the spot where they had taken a massive, near mystical step together into the future.
Never took the backseat or wonder what's a dream without a goal to conquer. Just a painful reminder. I've seen for miles how the river only bends and the two sides meet again. Put your head to bed, or you'll never see the end. Be the one they choose to follow. Would you run towards your failures every day, just to prove that nothing's standing in your way? In the moments I could feel it, when my sacrifice was needed, before they could even see me, I was there, like a flash of lightning.
Alrighty.
What'd you think?
Been a while since we had a good feel-good chapter.
It has been. It has. Like, I feel like the last couple of chapters have been like
They've been cathartic.
They've been cathartic, yeah. But
Not
quite
necessarily a
feel-good.
feel-good chapter.
That's a good point.
Yeah, like I think the thing at the beginning, I think the only thing I was like, I don't know if he would do that, is that he remembers like where he gets his scars. Like, because for me, I cannot relate at all because I am a clumsy person.
I know where each of my scars comes from.
And yet that's so different from me because I am like, I injure myself so easily and so frequently that I don't know where half of my scars come from and bruises. And like people always ask me, I'm like, oh. You know, and I guess it's a little more traumatic the way he received them.
He did mention he was like, yeah, I might have forgotten where some of them come from if I didn't keep my journal. He
uses his journal, yeah.
So he like has a reminder.
Yeah. See, for me, I'm just like, if I'm journaling, I'm not gonna be like, and I have a cut on my right thigh and a scratch on
in
my
his
ear.
writing, it would probably be more sarcastic. He'd be like, well, got it. He was like, all right, we're on scar number 22. All right, cool. This one's going on the bottom of the left foot. Cool.
see.
Attacked by a Nomu in rush hour traffic today. Not my best day.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess
like that's the kind of thing he would.
Yeah,
he would
I think
put
it's
in.
goofy, but I don't know. For me, I'm like, I guess I've never been vain about scars, so I'm just like, yeah, whatever. And I move on with my life.
I mean, would that be considered vain?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I would not pay it. I'd be like, yeah, whatever. Like, again, I don't pay attention to them, so it's like, even like, I guess if there was something super traumatic, like falling off a horse or something, like, okay, yeah.
Do you have a scar on your leg from that time that you like?
I actually didn't.
How do you
scar.
not have a scar from like getting stabbed?
Amazingly, I do not have a scar from that one. I don't think. I mean, I could check. I could have forgotten about it. I know. Like, think the only two that I know about are one where my mom accidentally gave me a 2nd-degree burn when curling my hair for my first homecoming. And so I have that one on my shoulder. And then another one, my dog was on an extendy leash and she took off after another dog and the metal clip snapped, came back and sliced my arm open. And it was just such a weird way to get a cut that I remember that one. Okay. But like other than that, I'm like, I have no idea.
I don't know. Yeah, I think, I don't know. There's also something to be said for like, not in a competitive sense, but like people who are in this kind of line of work, like if you have scars, like there's always a story behind it.
More of a badge of honor.
Yeah, they have a reason. There's usually a reason for how they got it and why. So I think it would be a little more marked for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. So those are weird tangents.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, yeah.
It was cute. I mean, it was fun. Like, going on a date, talking about like who would be in their wedding and stuff. And then
I did it. A lot of this chapter was like them kind of remembering where they started and comparing it to where they are now.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Kind of talking about like, and then like with relationships also being able to articulate that.
Yeah.
Just
that's important. Yeah. Yeah. If you want a relationship to work, talk.
Yeah.
This is one of the shorter ones.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like there's not a whole lot. I mean, their engagement is precious because it reminds me of ours, of course, because it's to fireworks.
Yeah, like the way that like I describe him, like shaking so bad that he's falling over, like even though he knows she's gonna say yes, like that was exactly.
I was wondering.
That was exactly how I felt when I was getting ready to propose to you at the Blues.
Well, she responded a lot more nicely than I did. So.
Yeah. So for context, guys, I asked Becca to marry me, and her first response was, "Are you serious?"
In my defense,
here we
like
go.
A month prior, he had asked like my grandparents and. They said yes, but I got wind of it because I was like, why were you at my house? Because my grandpa has a big mouth, like just like me.
That man cannot lie to save his life. He's like Tom Holland.
He really can't. So like I get home from like work or school or something. He's like, yeah, like what Joseph said earlier today. I was like, what? He's like,
you could see the gears in his head spinning as he tries to figure out how to backtrack.
Joseph was here today? Yeah. He stopped by. I was like, why was Joseph here? He's like, and he just like runs away. And I'm like, okay. So Joseph figures out that I found out he was there.
I think your grandma tipped me off. I'm like, dang it, Grandpa.
And so then you tell me that you asked them and they said no. Mm-hmm. So then I was so
No. I
upset.
said not yet. I said they said not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, and so I was so upset that then Grandma was like,
I had originally planned to do the proposal at Thanksgiving when we were all there for family dinner, but her grandma was like, Joe, I cannot take her being mad at me for this long. Do something. So I'm scrambling. I'm like, oh wait a minute, balloon fiesta. Becca's never been to a balloon glow before, and somehow you've lived your entire life in Albuquerque.
Well, see, the Mass Ascension's the best.
It is the best, but the balloon glow is really fun too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When it goes up. So. As it turns out, what I did was I got all my friends together. And we were all leaders at the youth ministry at the time. So I was like, hey guys, I'm gonna propose to Becca at this event. Can you all like come with me and make it seem like it's just a youth group leader outing.
Oh yeah, so then I'm like inviting random people from church who we barely know, and I'm like, oh yeah, you want to come? Cool, yeah, it's just like a leader outing.
By the end of it, we only had one person who wasn't in on it because you invited him like at the last minute.
Yeah.
And I didn't have time to get to him.
But it was hilarious because like that person and I were like ready to leave, and we're like, it's cold, it's wet, it got rained out. Why don't we just go eat?
Admittedly, I'm the first person who will want to leave under those conditions, but I'm like, no. I was like trying to like because the event was canceled. I was trying desperately to find some reason to keep us around, and then they tell us the fireworks are still gonna go off.
Yeah.
And the park was like so empty at this point.
We were literally I know it's massive.
It's massive, but there was hardly anybody there.
Look up the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta, and you'll just see how massive this event is. It's a massive place.
Yeah. So,
anyway,
like,
we were the only ones, and we had a private fireworks show basically
because
they still set off the fireworks because people paid for tickets, but most people left, and it was literally just our.
It was our group
of people. And there might have been one or two people walking around. Some
old people and some families.
Yeah, but they were like way over by the food trucks. They
Yeah,
weren't in the
yeah,
middle of the field like us.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, it took me by surprise. And so, of course, when he asks me, I'm like, are you serious? Because literally, I'd been fuming for weeks. I'd been so angry. And of course, my answer was yes. I knew my answer was yes. I knew I was going to marry you for like 5 years up until then.
Yeah.
But,
no, we'd been, let's see. No, we've been going out for like 3 years at that point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We were engaged for 2.
We were engaged for
Almost.
about a year and a half.
Yeah. Anyway, long story short, yeah. So I kind of like shoved him and said, "Are you serious?" And before I even, he was like, "Well, are you gonna answer?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, duh." So anyway,
like she said, "Are you serious?" And like for a split second, my brain went to dumbass mode and was like. No, I was really tempted to just say, "Nah, this is all super expensive prank. All right, everybody, let's go home." And then I was like, but then like
so
immediately afterwards, I would have been like, "Nah, that would not have gone well."
Yeah, no. Anyway,
Better
you made
sense
a good
intervened.
call. You made a good call. No, but it was precious because it was like I got proposed to under a private fireworks show, and
it was really cool,
gorgeous and amazing. Anyway, that being said,
like it was one of those things where it's like task failed successfully because we didn't get to go to the event that we wanted, but it turned out to be a really good night.
Yeah, it was really cool. But that being said, the fireworks, that's what that reminded me of. And so it was
there was
super
definitely
sweet.
inspiration drawn from that.
And so now I'm like, yay, looking forward to like moving forward. And we've got this like affirmation, like we're feeling strong. We're good. The relationships
life's looking good
yeah,
for them.
Yeah. So that's nice. But I mean, that's really about it. With
Yeah,
that chapter.
honestly, like, yeah, it was a smaller chapter, but like I said, a lot of it was just kind of them reminiscing on like how far they've come, which I think is important.
Yeah.
To understand, like, especially given what he ended up doing at the end of the chapter, I thought it was important to kind of reflect on like this is how they used to be, this is how they are now,
Yes.
this is how they've grown.
There's like healing that's happened. He is not just like this complete shell of who he was, which we were concerned about. So
yeah, there's still damage there for sure.
But he's recovering.
Yeah. As reflected in the scene with his scars, like we don't really talk about his psychological trauma in this chapter. That's still coming. Don't you worry. It's not all. But
that's the thing. There's something to be said for like the difference between being unsure about your future and knowing what to expect.
Yes,
because like when you're in a place like he was, where it's like I don't know what to do with my life now. Like this sucks, and I have to keep on living because I have people who count on me. But I can't do what I planned on doing. But now it's like he's resolved. He's like, okay, I know what I have to do. And so he can actually stand firm in that, and he doesn't have to sit there and have all that anxiety about like, I don't know what to do with my life right now, and I don't know. And he's like, I mean, I personally think he probably had kind of
puts him in a good place to be able to pop the question.
Yeah, because I mean, I think before he was having this inferiority complex because it's like, who am I to even want to marry anyone? Because I don't know how I would support myself if I did, you know?
Or how would I even be there for her?
Exactly. When they'd be living such different lives if she was a hero and he wasn't. Yeah. You know, I don't think
They definitely would have made it work.
Yeah.
But he would have had an inferiority complex.
Absolutely.
About it, big time.
Yeah.
But yeah. There's definitely that has led back to his confidence, I would say. Anyway,
I mean, I think that's about all I have to say.
So we'll get. I do promise that we'll get some action in the next chapter. And we'll. I'll leave it. It's not gonna be like any pulse pounding like epic chases or anything, but we do have some fun stuff happening next chapter.
All right.
So with all that said, I do hope you guys enjoyed this chapter as well. And I hope you guys enjoy your next couple of weeks. I want to send you guys out a reminder that in about 2 months' time, we are going to be hitting our 100th podcast for this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have some special stuff planned out for there. We're going to have some of the people from the Discord come in and join us for group discussion. Those are always super fun.
We're also going to have a drawing for some artwork.
We're going to have a drawing for some prizes.
Yeah.
Some of it's going to be artwork, and some of it's going to be something that we'll save to explain until the actual event.
All right.
So thank you guys again so much for staying with us for this long, and I hope you guys have a plus ultra couple of weeks until the next podcast.
Bye, guys.